Good morning, everyone. It's Brenda Quintana here. Are you ready for a fun and fabulous card? I was designing this yesterday and I was actually wanting to design a tea light holder. And when I was putting it together, I realized that my tea light holder was almost the same dimensions as a card front when it was flat. And I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. It wasn't quite there yet, so I changed the measurements around a little bit. And I was able to figure out how to turn the card into a tea light holder that could be mailed flat. So now it's really useful because you can mail this tea light holder flat, and when the person gets it, they can convert it into a tea light holder. And I will include, as you know, I have a project sheet, and this will be mailed out to my email list subscribers on Saturday. But I also have a document that has little instructions. So I cut this one up, but these are my little labels. They'll be on like an 8.5 by 11 sheet. And they will also, you can just print them off and then you can just use them as instructions for the card. Not only that, but I realized that this design actually, it's so simple in essence that it can be used with other windows and other shapes to create other tea light holders. So look at it from the point of view as it makes an awesome Christmas card, but it could also make an awesome birthday card or anything that you can fit kind of in a 4x4 kind of window, a shape. I'll show you in a second and you'll understand a little bit better, but you'll be able to convert it also into a tea light holder if you kind of follow my little formula. So I hope you enjoyed today's card. And I wanted to just tell you guys, I'm really excited that I am almost at 20,000 subscribers on YouTube. In fact, I am less than 10 subscribers away from reaching 20K. So if you're new to my channel and you want to help push me over the 20K mark, I'd appreciate that. I would love to reach that like within the next week. So if you want to help me get there and you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe to my channel. Yay. I want to see that 19.9K turn to 20K. That will make me really, really happy. Just because I said like I'm almost at 20K, and now like I'm just on that cusp of it. So if you want to help me reach that, just please subscribe today. Good morning to everyone who's joined me. As you know, if you've watched a video of mine before, I tend to talk to you guys afterwards because I get off on tangents. So I'd rather do that at the end and just kind of go through my entire tutorial and then answer your questions afterwards. So if during what I'm doing, if you have a question, please write it in the comments so that I can catch it at the end and answer your questions, because sometimes I'm able to show something, go back and do something that will demonstrate the answer to the question better than I can in just doing a comment. So please do that if you would like to. All right, let me make sure. I think I've got both cameras working today, so yay. Let me switch over to my other camera. Now let's take a look at my design for today. I haven't even shown it yet. So let's have a look. So this is the card, and it mails, you know, Stampin' Up medium envelopes. This is a medium envelope, okay? So this is the card, and look at this. It fits inside a medium envelope. So yay, right? You can mail it. It's nice and flat. It's just going to use a regular stamp. Yay. All right. And then you're going to write Here's one that I've already converted into. So this is what the back of the card looks like. And this is the area where you're going to need to write. So if you don't want to stamp a greeting, if you just want to write something, you can just die cut something or just add a piece of basic white to the back. And then I have the instructions on how to convert this. So on the inside, it doesn't look like a regular card because you're going to turn it into a tea light holder. So it just says to turn this card into a tea light holder, tuck the flap between the gold foil and the back of the card, put a battery operated tea light inside the tent, and the light will shine through. Enjoy. So I kept this very generic. So if you want to use this little instruction sheet with another card, if you're not going to do this one exactly, you can use it for that. So the gold foil sheet and the back of the card. I only adhered this down halfway, okay, by design, so that I can tuck this piece in here, okay, and this now becomes a tea light holder. The reason for the gold foil sheet on the back is because this is a dark card base and I want the light to be able to reflect when it's in there. So I've got some different tea lights. So let's just turn one of these guys on. So this one's a little flickering one. I love tea lights. I have a bunch of them here. So I'll just scoot this inside, and I don't know if you can see the flickering light. You can move it wherever you want. You can move it and hide it behind the three kings and it will kind of flicker here. I like to kind of keep it on this side because then I created a little star opening right there, so it kind of looks like the star is shining and twinkling. Isn't that cool? All right, so that's just a regular flickering tea light, and you could have like just a regular tea light as well, one that doesn't flicker. I also have a color changing one, which I love the color changing ones. I got these a few years ago, so I don't know. I got them at a craft store, like a box store. Oh, my light just turned off. Let's see if I can get it going again. Sometimes they're a little sensitive. Okay, so you can see this kind of looks like the Northern Lights, doesn't it? Look at that. Isn't that fun? So these look really cool in a dark room. And you know what? This was not really that hard to make. So that's another nice thing about this card. It's not a super complicated design. You just need to know how to make it. So I think you're gonna like this. So let me show you how I made it. So both of these are flat for now. Let's talk about the bundle. This is called the Great Tidings Bundle. And when you buy both of these together, you save 10%. I'm using this cool window for my opening, and I also used it for the back of the card. And this actually cuts out, but I just pieced it back in, and then you can have this cool frame around there, so it makes it look nice on the back of the card. And on the front of the card, it just creates that fun opening, and it just adds some extra detail to the front of your card. So I love that. And then we've got the cutouts, the die cuts for the three kings and the little star that I'm also going to use. And I love that that will create kind of an opening for the light to shine through. And then I'm also using some of the greetings in here. I'm using sending peace and joy to you and good tidings of great joy. So this is just a fabulous bundle, and I checked and it's still in stock. So yay for that. All right, are you ready to get started? Let's get started. Okay, we're gonna need to create a card base, and this piece is 11 inches by 4¼ inches. At least I hope it's 4¼ I don't know, it looks kind of wide to me. It looks almost, you know what? It is 4½, but it should be 4¼ So let me cut this to 4¼ real quick. This is my Stampin' trimmer. So let's just cut this down and make sure this is the right size. I've been doing it so long that 1/4 inch just looked a little wide to me. So it's true because we want it to fit into a medium-sized envelope. So 11 inches by 4¼ inches. And then you're going to take your scoring board, or you could also take your trimmer as well. You can use the scoring tool on your trimmer. I just love to use mine Simply Scored. I'm a little addicted to it. So the scoring measurements are quite easy. We'll score at the 4-inch mark, the 8-inch mark, and the 9.5-inch mark. Okay, very easy. 4, 8, and 9.5. And now we're going to cut a window out of this this large middle segment. So let me show you how to do that. Bring in my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine because we will need that to create the window. And just in case you don't know, base platform is number 1, thin die adapter number 2, and then I've got my cutting plate, which is number 3. It's a clear cutting plate. And then we're going to put in this piece. And I'm putting in, there's a 4-inch segment and then there's a 4-inch segment. So that 4-inch segment, the 2 4-inch segments are going to go through first. And on the second one in from the end, I'm going to use this to die cut the window. So basically eyeball it, and you want to center it. Okay, so the same distance from the top to the bottom in between these 2 score lines, and the same distance side by side. Okay, and you want to make sure that your point is facing towards the other 4-inch segment. Okay, I'm going to have a diagram on my project sheet that shows the orientation in case you need to double check that. But point towards the other 4-inch segment, and then put the other clear plate on top, and just make sure that I want to make sure that it didn't shift. Putting it back into alignment. Okay, I think that's close enough. Okay, and then I'm just going to run this through. Okay, and then one thing that I would recommend with this die, it is a little intricate. It is pretty good about taking the pieces out, but if you want them to release a little bit more easily, take a piece of wax paper, ball it up, and rub it over the die before you run it through. Don't rub it on the cardstock because then it's going to be on the cardstock. If you just rub it on the die, then it will just be on those areas of the die. All right, so let me just kind of pick this up. And what I like to do is I take this over to the garbage can and I flick it. So I'll do that off camera. I just give it a little flick with my finger, and most of these little guys have come off. There we go. One more hanging around. So it releases pretty easily from the system. I'm just looking to see if there's anything else. I'm going to have to bring in my die cut machine several times today. So sorry about the back and forthing. But this is what it looks like. So the 4-inch segments here, another 4-inch segment here, and then the 2 1.5-inch segments down here at the bottom. So just want to make sure that I'm following along my instructions. Okay, let's fold this piece along the score lines. Be really careful right here on this edge because it's that intricate die is right near the edge. So just make sure you're folding on the score line, not on the die piece. And again, I'm just going to make sure that I'm folding right here. Just bringing this in just a wee bit. Okay, so now we've got what our fold will look like, okay? Then we need to create that vellum star window. So I've got a little piece of vellum right here. It measures 4¼ inches by 4 inches. Actually, I lie. I didn't want to write down 3 15/16 by 3 15/16 by 4 3/16. So basically what I just told you, 4 1/4 by 4 inches, then subtract about a 1/16 of an inch. So we'll cut it just a little bit shorter than that so it will fit perfectly in this section. If you give it just a little bit of a gap, it's going to fit in just so much better. And I'm just going to lay this on top of my piece. Then what I did earlier is I took a star, I stamped it, and I die cut it. And then I took my piercing tool and I pierced a hole right in the center. I eyeballed it. So now what I can do is I can put my star where I want it on my piece. So I'm just going to lay it down, and then I'll take a pencil and I'm going to make myself a little pencil mark right in the center. So now I'm going to die cut that star, and that little pencil mark will be right in the center, and that way I'll know that it's going to be in the correct spot. So let's bring in my die cutting machine one more time. And I've made a mess here. So the best way to get rid of a mess like this, sometimes these little pieces want to stick on here. I have a little old gift card, credit card, hotel key. If you have one of those kicking around, just use that to shove all that detritus into your garbage if it sticks. Okay, so you have a clean plate again. And then same sandwich as before. And you might lose your vellum sheet because it's kind of clear. But I'm going to grab that. And then I'm going to grab my little star. And we'll just lay that on here right over top of my piece. Just make sure the pencil mark's in the center. And then we're just going to run that right through. And hopefully it'll be right in the right place. Yeah, that looks pretty good. See, it's right there. Right, now put this again. Wait, one more time. All right. So now I want to adhere it because the wise men are facing this way. I want to adhere it to this corner. So that's why it's kind of reversed. Now I'll just take some Tombow and I'm going to trace around the edge of my window with the Tombow. Come down here underneath. Grab a little Tombow there, make sure I go up there. And that's just going to help hold the window in place. And now this piece of vellum should fit in between the two score lines. And there should just be like a hair of blue cardstock peeking out on the side. So that's the idea. If you cut it just a little bit smaller than this piece, it should just work really well to fit in that space without any overhang. If you do have overhang, guess what? You're just going to trim it off. All right, so now we've got our little star in place, and now we need to add the gold foil sheet. So if this is the front of the card, this right here is going to be the inside of the card, and this flap is going to tuck in down right here. So I'm going to orient this piece like this, okay? And then the piece of gold foil sheet is going to glue right in here. This piece measures 4 by 4, and again, I'm cutting it just a little bit smaller than 4 by 4. So it's actually 3 15/16 by 3 15/16. If you can't wrap your head around that, just make it a little bit smaller than 4 by 4. Okay, and I just want to put Tombow on the top half because I need room for this little guy to come underneath here and tuck in. Okay, so I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to kind of trace myself a box so I know what half is, and then I'll just fill in a bit. Okay, so only this top half is adhered, and then I'm going to just add this. and this is going to sit right below the score line. And yes, it does not go right to the edges. This is also by design because it provides a little bit of a framework on the inside when you're looking in. Also, the gold foil sheet comes in 12 by 12. So if I cut this to 4 by 4, I can get 9 pieces of gold foil out of a 12 by 12 sheet. So it's a really good way to make sure you use your gold foil sheet efficiently. All right, so basically that is the setup for the whole card. And now I'm just gonna let this dry for a bit, but I can already tuck that in to create the little tent. Now, if you didn't want to make this into a card, all you need to do is put glue on here, and then you could tuck it in, and you could actually make this into a holder that never comes apart. But I think most of you will enjoy the idea that this can be flat and then it can be converted. Okay, so let's finish off the card now. So I'm going to stamp my 3 kings in Night of Navy ink. I'm going with 2 colors on this card. I'm keeping it very simple. If you like a lot of color, add more color, go for it. I'm just going to keep it very simple, Night of Navy. I'm going to stamp each of the 3 kings. This is a scrap piece of basic white. I'll just stamp them side by side by side. All right. I'm going to let these dry just a bit, and then we're going to color them. And in the meantime, I'm going to show you how I created this greeting down here at the bottom. So I have a piece of basic white right here. It measures 3.5 by 1 inch. And I'm going to take the Treasure Tags Pick-a-Punch. So one thing I really love about this Pick-a-Punch, look at the top of my window. It's got that little pointy element, and my Pick-a-Punch has one that has a little pointy element, so it matches really well. So really nice that I can use that to create kind of the same type of design. So I'm going to punch both ends of this. So shove it all the way in, make sure it's centered, give it a punch, and do the same thing for the other side. Okay, so now I've created myself a cute little label. And then I'm going to take this greeting right here. It says, Good Tidings of Great Joy, using Night of Navy again. And I'm just going to center this. I never put the labels on my stamps. You may have noticed that. So sometimes I have to double check that it's the right way. I just, for one thing, I don't want to take the time to do it. And the other thing is, back in the day, they didn't stick as well. Now they stick really, really well. So you can definitely add your stickers to your stamps if you want to. I just don't. I just got so used to doing it without that I don't really want to do it. Extra time. But I do trim around my stamps sometimes, just so it's nice and flush with the edge so I can really see well where I'm stamping. And then I'm going to take 2 of these cute little stars. I'm going to line them up with the points of my punched shape. And I'm just going to add them on there just to give it a little bit of color. And I use Daffodil Delight ink for that. Okay, so now these guys should be good and ready to go ahead and color. So to color them, I just added a little pop of my Daffodil Delight Dark Stampin' Blend. And I just wanted to keep the coloring fairly simple. So I just did the robe on here. I won't color him all. I'll do the little crown, the little gift, and I'll also do the sleeve. Okay, so I would go ahead and do all of that. On this one, I did this kind of swoosh down here, like this, and I did this one And I didn't do anything with the turban, but I did this, okay? And then for this last one, I colored in all of the little scallops, okay? And I did it all the way going down that way. I did the crown, and then this little bottle of whatever it is. So it's just a pop of color, a pop of yellow. And then what I would do is I would run these through with the die cut machine. And I wanted to give you a little tip for doing that. I won't do that again, but let's just take one of these, this king. When I lined this guy up, sometimes it's really hard to get them lined up and then get that plate on there. So what I did is I took a piece of, I just actually tore it off of a super sticky Post-it note, and I found the best way to attach this temporarily was to just kind of put this over top of the die right there, and then you can run it through and it's not going to shift on you, and it's only touching a really small part of the head and the paper, so it's not going to peel off, and that will help keep the die in place while you're running it through. And I did that for all 3 of the kings. Actually, in fact, I probably could have die cut all 3 at once. I tend to do them separately on these pieces, but probably I would have needed to stamp them a little bit further apart. They might not quite all fit. Let's just see. Sometimes when you get them stamped too, oh no, I think that would have worked. So you could do all 3 at once, just use 3 different little pieces of Post-it note and then run them through your Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. I'm just going to leave that on there to remind me to use that. And then this is what you get. These are the little guys colored and die cut. All right. So now we're ready to assemble this part. So this is how I did it. So I'm going to just fold that down a little bit. So I'm going to take my first king. He's the tallest king. And I'm just going to lift up the frame a little bit. And I'm tucking that first king in. Then he's the tallest king. And then I'm tucking the turban king goes in second. Okay. And then the third king, he's the shortest of them all. He's going to go last because it just kind of makes, it looks better that way. I don't know. At least I think it looks better that way. So then you can play around with them until you're happy with how they are placed. Okay. And if you find my coloring boring, go wild with your coloring and add more colors, rich tones. I just wanted to kind of keep it simple because I can see myself making a bunch of these cards. These aren't super hard cards to make. So I'm just going to dab a little bit of Tombow right behind each of the heads. I could probably do better if I actually stuck it on the king's heads, but I'm just going to glue them down. So they're tucked and they're glued just at the head, but that just kind of keeps them from shifting around and falling out. I want them stuck to that vellum so they don't go anywhere. And then this little piece down here is just going to get adhered down here. Okay. Make sure it's straight. So it's, you know, a very simple card in terms of color. Navy, yellow, gold, right? It's not super complex. All right, so then I wanted to create a nice backdrop for the back because sometimes this little guy is going to get turned around. So I thought it would be neat to add a design to the back. So what I did is I took another piece of basic white cardstock, and this time I cut it to 3 7/8. Wait, it's 4 1/8 by 3 7/8. The 3 7/8 measurement is right here. But if you want to check, cut it to 4 1/8 by 3 7/8, and then you just need to put it on the back of your card and then, okay, it fits good that way, and then you'll know which way to cut your shape. Okay, so I'm just cutting it so there's going to be a tiny little bit of Night of Navy coming around the edge like that. So make sure all your little die cut pieces are out, and then I'm going to add this on here. And I know I didn't show you me die cutting this piece again, but I think you can understand. You just center it right on your piece, that die, and then you just run it through the Stampin' Cut Emboss machine. Just want to make sure that this is centered. Okay, and then this piece, okay, this is going to fit nicely. So now I want to stamp this piece, and I'll use Night of Navy again. And I'll use this nice little stamp that says sending peace, joy, and what does it actually say? Sending peace, joy, and sending peace and joy to you. Okay, good. So I'm just going to ink this up, and I'm going to stamp this centered on there. And then again, I'm just repeating my same pattern. Little boring, but I think it looks good. So then I'll just kind of center my stars with the word peace. Okay. And then I can add this back into here. And now you have a little space to write a Merry Christmas greeting, or, just to identify yourself, who the card's from. Love, Brenda, right? You can write that underneath there. You have room for a tiny, tiny little message. Okay. And then I have this piece down here. And that is this document, which I've already kind of cut apart. It's a full 8.5 by 11 sheet full of all of these little labels, and I did really faint gray lines so you could see where to cut. Okay, but if you cut a little bit off, you're probably not going to notice the gray line, so it's just faint enough so that you can see it and add it here. So if you print this off on computer paper, you don't want to use Tombow, because if it's computer paper, it's a very light paper. So you're going to want to use like Stampin' Seal or a dry runner adhesive to attach this, because otherwise it's going to wrinkle up your paper. It's, Tombow's a wet glue. So I'm going to use a dry runner adhesive. And then I'll just attach this down here. I'll try and center it as best that I can. And I already read you the instructions, but so when the person gets this, they're gonna understand what to do with this. And so they'll just go ahead, and if I did this right, see there's the little gap in between the gold foil and the back of the card. And then they're just gonna shove that in. And then they will be able to add a tea light. Now, if this piece doesn't have a tea light, there is still going to be some light shining in through the gap. It just won't be bright at night. So if someone doesn't have a tea light holder, it's still going to be really cute, and they can display it on a shelf somewhere, and it will make a really cute Christmas ornament, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not useful if they don't have a tea light. If you're mailing this flat, of course, you won't be able to include a tea light. But if you're mailing this in a parcel or handing it out in person, you could give them the tea light if you wanted to, so that they could, have the tea light and use it right away. I'm just thinking, I have a lot of long distance people, and I always am looking for things that I can mail flat, because shipping is so expensive. And especially for me, I have relatives in Canada, and shipping something to Canada is just so expensive, and sometimes I just like the shipping ends up being more expensive than the gift you're sending. So I want something that I only need to put a stamp on, right? So this is what it looks like. And then when it's not, when it's a card, it's like that. So I hope you like that idea, and think about this card and the design. It's a fairly simple design, right? But you can, as long as your shape kind of fits in here, you could use different shapes and create different tea light holders with that, using kind of the same basic principle for this card. So it is adaptable to other cards as well. So let me come back here, everyone. I hope you like this card. I was really excited. I always love cards that are simple wows, and I don't think this card is really that hard to make, and it can just be adaptable for other occasions. So if you would like to order the Great Tidings Bundle and make this card, I'm just going to pop up my host code for you. And if you spend just a little bit more, I believe the Great Tidings Bundle is $43. So if you add just a little bit more to your order, then you'll be able, and use the host code, you'll be able to get my host code gift of the month, which I've already tucked away again. It's this right here, these beautiful garden gems. They're not even available yet. They will be available for purchase in November, but I'm going to send them to you for free if you place a $50 order in October. I will have a different host code gift coming up in November, but this is my one for October. If you're watching this belatedly in November, just click on the host code link down below, and it will always take you to my current host code, but this is the one that's finishing up for October. And if you don't want to spend that much, if you're spending at least $15 with me, you'll get one of my free with purchase tutorials for free. Okay. All the supplies are actually down below in the description of the video, or you can click over to my blog where you'll see more photos and you'll have access to back to the video and everything. And make sure you're subscribed to my email list so you can get my project sheet in the mail on Saturday. All right, I think I've talked a lot, so let me see what your comments are and let me see what you think of this card. Good morning, Birgit. So nice to see you. Good morning, Ellie. Oh, you only have 39 degrees this morning. Well, it was very similar here in Boston. For you in other parts of the world, if you go by Celsius, it was like 2 degrees Celsius this morning when I woke up. And Ellie says it was 39 degrees Fahrenheit, which was very close to what we had here in the Boston area. It was really cold, and I wore my down jacket because I was cold. It's very very humid here, like kind of damp in the air, and I think it makes it feel really cold. So in the morning I wore my wool hat and my down jacket, and we went for a walk, and it was beautiful, but I need to be bundled up to do that. Good morning, Kim. Oh, you're all the way in Florence, South Carolina. I bet you it was warmer there this morning. And Joyce is from Aiken, South Carolina. Wow, South Carolina's rocking it this morning on this video. Good morning, Amaretto. Nice to see you here. Ellie says she loves using tea lights this time of year. I do too. And so if you can find flickering tea lights, color changing tea lights, they are my favorite. Because they add to the ambience. They look like a real candle. And I made sure on my label to say, put a battery operated tea light, because kind of like the warnings on like coffee cups, it's a hot beverage, or I didn't want someone to burn their house down by putting a candle tea light in there. So I wanted to emphasize the fact, because these days everyone's really busy and sometimes we're just not thinking. So I wanted to emphasize the fact that it needed to be a battery operated tea light. Otherwise, your tea light holder will go up in a big display of smoke and fire, and maybe that will be spectacular too, but I don't want anyone's house to burn down. So I'm just going to add battery operated tea light on there, just because that's what you need for this. It is definitely will catch fire if you put a candle in there. Good morning, Sherry. Yes, please watch the replay afterwards. Oh, and thank you. I'm so glad you think they're gorgeous. That is that really makes me happy, and I hope that you will share your design with me. Send me an email. I also have a bee stamping with QB Facebook group, so if you want to join that and post your whatever you made with it, if you made the exact same one, please do. I would love to see it because it's really fun. I want to inspire you. I want you to make my design after I've made it, because that makes me happy. It makes me feel like my design was worthwhile copying and sharing. So, all right, guys, I hope you have a fun weekend. I hope it will be a little warmer where you are. And I will be back next Tuesday on Facebook. And Friday, I'll be back here on YouTube with another 3D project. Have a great weekend and see you next week. Bye-bye.